Thanks.
Yes, they've had some people.
Okay, we'll start the meeting with the Pledge of Allegiance.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay. The first item on the agenda is approval of the agenda. We are going to remove number 5, Leonard Hoppus, EMS Director, and then Chris passed out a new agenda that took off the edit transfers.
Yeah, we're gonna hold off on those. We're gonna have to do some work on those.
Okay, so if there's no other additions, then I'll entertain a motion to approve
I'll make that motion
with the
with the changes.
amendments. Yes.
And then
I'll second.
David made a motion, seconded by Gail. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes 7-0. Next up, public comments. We don't have anybody signed in. So next on the agenda is Nathan Held, Indiana Region 15 Executive Director, here to give a report.
Good evening.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Oh, good.
Thank you. There's a few new faces up here, so I'll introduce who Indiana 15 is. We're a 6-county regional planning commission. We are established under state statute. We're also a designated economic development district through the U.S. Department of Commerce Economic Development Administration. And we're also the rural planning organization through NDOT for the 6-county region. So we work with all 6 counties, and we work with our 26 cities and towns as a form of support. We're here to help plan out your priorities and help you find the state and federal resources to help make that happen. And so each county pays in a per capita fee, and the first 2 pages details a 10-year history as far as what each county paid in, and then the grant funds received as a result of that. And that takes you to 2024. So you can see all 6 counties, what they paid in and the results of that. And then the last 2 pages are specific to Perry County. And again, we're starting in 2014. And this lists out each of the individual projects. And this reflects the year that the grant application was actually funded. But usually we're working on these things, up to a year prior to develop. And then once they're funded, could be up to a year, 2 years, maybe even 3 years for administration on the back end. So the back page of the packet takes us to 2024. So for Perry County, your per capita fees that all 6 counties are put together, and that helps to match a planning grant through EDA. And this is a region-wide planning grant. And then also we receive a planning grant through NDOT, which helps us to go out. Actually, it's in support of NDOT, where they assign traffic counts throughout the 6 counties. We go out and do that on county roads, and all that information is publicly available. And then also in 2024, the old Perry County Hospital clearance project through the city of Tell City was funded. And that we actually had the pre-construction meeting today for the demolition part of it. So by the end of June, that hospital will be gone and the site cleared out. So the asbestos removal was already completed. So the building is clean and ready to be demolished. So you'll see that for 2024, your total was $518,374 in federal and state funds. And then, like I said, once they're funded, we're working on these for a couple of years after. So I did mark, since technically this is a report on 2024, I marked the projects that were still ongoing in 2024, which, looking at this, the pier project down at the port, that's still ongoing, still working through a lot of the hoops that you have to jump through, especially when you're dealing with the river. We have the EPA Brownfield Assessment Grant. This was a grant that was awarded to the region, but we are still looking for sites. This is where we are able to pay for an environmental consultant for phase 1 and phase 2 environmental assessments on sites. So that is ongoing. The Federal Highway RAISE project, which is the Hoosier Southern Railroad improvements. Again, that is still ongoing. That was an $11.5 million project. And then I went ahead and put the first grant that was awarded for 2025, and that's the Tell City Owner Occupied Rehab project, which is underway now, and that was at $350,000. And then we put in the projects that are in development. We've got a number of these, particularly, one of the hardest to try to solve is the water expansion for Antro and trying to get the water expanded out in new areas of the county. Along with that, the Troy Township Water Association water improvements. We are also administering the READY funds for the Indiana First region. So that's keeping us busy as well with READY 1 and 2 funds. And then we are starting discussion on a grant or some grant funds for Tell City water improvements. We're also working with the town of Troy. That didn't end up on here, but the town of Troy on some water improvements and trying to figure out how to get some grant funds for them. So we are staying very busy with all the funds that remain out there, and we hope to continue on, but we're here to support you in any way that we can. If there's any project or any need that comes up, just let me know. We can't always help. But we'll at least do some digging and see if there's something out there that might be helpful for you. So, are there any questions?
I just want to make a comment that sometimes I find grants or opportunities that I don't fully know all the details about, and I reach out to Nathan or his team at Indiana 15, and they're always very responsive and very helpful to tell me usually why I can't get it. But it's better to know that up front than for us to want to try to apply for something and put money towards that and go down the road we can't go. So I'm very appreciative of what you do. So.
Nathan, do you do traffic counts, or does this do traffic counts for like gravel county roads?
Right at this point, no, because the tubes don't work on gravel. It'll just pierce through. Okay. There is some technology where it doesn't use the tubes, but it doesn't. NDOT doesn't allow us to use. It's called MyoVision, which is just a kind of a video. They won't allow us to use that because it doesn't record all the data that they need us to do. That type could be used on a gravel road, but they don't allow it for this purpose.
Okay.
Yeah. Questions?
Any questions? Well, thank
Well
you.
spent money.
Yeah, I think so. It's a good investment.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, next up is Greg Hendershot, Parks and Rec, for assistant resignation and vacancy.
About here about once a year, it seems like.
For the last 3 years, I think.
That's what I'm here for, to seek your permission to hire an assistant again.
Is this, I have a question about you're obviously very busy during mowing season, which is starting now, I guess. What time, so if we're looking at like March through maybe November, is that mowing season or something pretty much?
Anymore, yeah, pretty much.
I mean,
We started
through
earlier and
October.
we're usually mowing later in the year for some reason in the last few years.
So I just have some questions about like November through February. I mean, is it what are they doing? What is this assistant? I mean,
Working on all the equipment, getting it ready for spring. We still have work orders to do.
Mhm.
We still have the parks to maintain. We're just not spraying and
Yeah.
mowing. That's the only thing that we're not doing.
I was trying to just figure out if, we had talked before about the maintenance duties that you do. And, it feels like it's something totally separate than the Parks and Recs job. I don't know where that ever got combined or how it got combined
I
or,
can explain it.
okay,
And I've been asking for a while to hire someone to help. I just had a part-time guy when I was working for Parks and Rec as the director.
Mhm.
And I've been asking for that position to be moved up to full-time at that time. And I kept getting told, no, there's always something that come up where it wasn't going to happen.
Mhm.
And then I want to say it was 2018 that I asked again, and Ellis Howard was the maintenance guy here. Now, he only did pretty much just this building. I think he went a couple places here or there,
Mhm.
but I don't think he ever went to the sheriff's office. But I told him at the one budget meeting, I said, well, if you're looking for a maintenance guy, I said, I'm looking for my part-time position to be brought up full-time.
Mhm.
So they then brought my part-time position up to a full-time position, and that's how I got to
Okay.
have a maintenance assistant.
okay. I was just thinking, would it be worthwhile? Because I know, like you said, this is the third time in 3 years you've been back. And I don't know when these people leave. Do they leave when it's mowing season starts? Or, is that like,
This one did.
I don't know what the other, what the history is.
The
So,
problem is the hours. You
Okay.
work, they work like 36 hours Monday through Friday.
Mhm.
Then they come out on Saturday and Sunday, morning and evening to open and close Eagles Bluff Park. It's a gated park that has to be open and closed.
Yeah.
So that's, basically for biggest part of the year, they're working 7 days a week.
Yeah, I'm just wondering, Eric, I don't mean to put you on the spot because I have not talked to the sheriff's department, but I was just curious if that would be something that like maybe a deputy could lock it up
Well,
or
they've tried that in the past.
they did. Okay.
Yeah, they've had officers doing it, other people doing it, but
It may not be right at 7, it may be when they can get there right
Yeah.
after that. I
the
didn't know.
problem that they run into a lot of times, the place has to be cleaned up. Sometimes when you get up there, there's people there. Their cars are there sometimes. You can't find them. They're either back on the trails or they park it there and they leave with somebody else and go somewhere else. So you got to track people down. You can't just lock the gate and lock the car up there.
Mhm.
They did do that before, but they just cut the,
So you're like
padlock on the gate.
traipsing through wherever it is looking for them or, that's a little scary.
yeah, you have to yell and scream. There's been plenty of times up there well after dark with the deputy sheriff because
Yeah.
I'm trying to find these people. You don't know if they've had a heart attack back there on the trail somewhere or if they've gotten lost. You don't know what the case is. So,
Mm.
and a lot of times they come, walking back after dark.
Yeah. I was just thinking if they could, and I don't know, I'm not putting them on the spot and asking them to do that right now. We'd have to have that conversation, but if potentially the deputy could maybe lock it up in the evening, if you could open it up, I don't know if that would help with, I
You'd have
guess.
to run that by the sheriff.
Yeah, yeah. I don't know if that's the big problem with, because 7 days a week, I can see, I wouldn't want to work 7 days a week.
Well, and probably the reason why it don't work out like that, or at least it hasn't in the past,
Mm.
they get busy.
Yeah, that's
And-
true.
They can't get up there to lock it. Then people go up there. They take their cars up there.
Yeah.
We don't run the parking lot lights up there at night because we close at night.
Hmm.
So it's dark up there. And up on top of that hill, it's really dark.
Yeah.
The only light up there is the one from the restroom building.
If you weren't doing all the maintenance duties, I'm just asking questions to see how I can help you get somebody, some kind of consistent help that's going to stay or contract out help that's going to stay or whatever it is. Because I understand this frustration. This is a lot of turnover, in 3 years. I don't know if you didn't have the maintenance duties and you did just the Parks and Rec part, could you do that by yourself if we had a maintenance person? Or would you want to do that? Or I'm just trying to figure
I
out.
would be back in the same boat that I was in before. It's hard to go back onto a trail. You're back there cutting up, tree that's falling across the trail, and something happens to you when you're back
Yeah,
there.
that's true.
No one's gonna know until you don't show up for dinner or
Mhm.
somebody comes walking down the trail and sees you there.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I was just thinking, should we bid out, during the summer months? Should we bid out some of this mowing? I don't know. Would that, at least they would be consistently be there and you'd know that they would show up,
There was
whoever would get it.
there was a time when they contracted out. It's a few years ago, I guess. I think it was before I got there. It may have been just shortly before I got there because they hadn't hired anybody yet.
I'm just thinking that might be more, you can rely on, I would hope if we contract with somebody to help you mow, where are some of the areas, Rono that you mow and Eagles Bluff?
Well, we roam, Magna's Park out there, Rome.
Okay.
There's a park out there, airplane crash site. We manage that.
Oh,
And then all the county buildings except for the county highway garage, I think they take care of their own out there.
okay. I'm just trying to think of options that would help you have consistent help where you don't have to do
Raise the
it.
pay for that position. That's one of the biggest things that they talk about. For $15 an hour, it's 15 something, I think, an hour. It's hard to get somebody who wants to work 7 days a week.
No, I understand that. I asked Chris for the pay, or I have the pay, but like, once you add all the benefits and everything, it's actually a lot more. It can more than double. It looks like with it, once we put in the county pension and the Social Security, the salary goes up to like $39,533 if you consider all that, the county costs, and then the single, just for a single plan for insurance is $17,906 for premiums a year for the county, and then $26,642 for the family plan. So I was just looking at if somebody would take this job and take the insurance, which it's offered because it's a full-time job, we're looking at anywhere, if they would take the insurance, would be a single plan would be like $51,657 plus, the medical claims, and then the other one would be like $60,393 is what the county's cost would be. It's not their take-home pay or anything. I get it,
Well,
but
unfortunately, I think that's what they look at because a lot of times when I'm interviewing people,
yeah, I get it.
you get a potential good prospect and then they say, well, what's the pay? And you tell them, they go, oh,
Mhm.
and it just.
Yeah.
So that's
Addressing the county or Camden PD actually tried to help too with locking
Oh, they
it and
did?
opening it up, and it just didn't work out.
Yeah.
They tried it for over a year.
I didn't know if they had.
And of course, whenever April gets around and mowing starts,
Mhm.
it's hard for two people to even keep up at that point, so.
Well, and that was something I was going to mention too. Since I've started doing this, there's been 2 properties added. We have the recycling center now and the animal shelter. I've never had those before.
Mhm. Do you mow the jail? You don't, and the armory? You do? Okay. For some reason, I thought that was, I saw that was the build out or something.
No.
The armory anyways. I thought it was on this one, but maybe not. Well, does anybody have any questions for Greg or any other
Just curious
discussion?
why you have to lock up the park at night.
I think Gail's been here with it longer than I have. I think criminal mischief was the biggest problem. You leave it open at night, people can drive up on top of a hill. There's no other traffic coming and going, usually early hours in the morning, and they get up there in the parking lot and they sit around and probably, I'm gonna assume that they were drinking
Yeah,
and
it's,
carrying on,
drinking, fighting, trash, it was just.
and the place gets tore
a
up.
combination.
Yeah. So they just, at some point in time, they started keeping the gate locked all the time. Open up in the morning, close it at night.
I know, but make
Just
sure.
wonder now with technology, if a camera or 2
Yeah.
up there would
Would that help? I
take
mean,
away the need for locking them.
at least you'll know who's up there if somebody's.
Yeah, but we would also have to start burning in parking lot lights every night too, though. Right now, we're not doing that. If you're gonna have
Well-
people up there, if it's gonna be open, it's gonna have to be lighted.
I believe, Greg, you need someone. I mean, we're coming into mowing season, so, if you're having trouble finding someone, then you may have to come back,
Well, we can
and-
find them, they don't stick around very
They
long.
don't stay, but, this is mowing season, so
Yeah.
maybe,
It takes roughly, it was taking 2 full days just to do all the mowing. It'll take a little longer now that we've got the 2 other properties. So they
Yeah.
don't leave a whole lot of time to do maintenance in Parks and Rec.
well, next budget season, maybe we can do a little bit more. I don't know. I gotta get into it first, but.
What percentage of the time, you said 2 days, so the other 3 days are taken up by what other
maintenance, whatever maintenance we have to do, and then there's spraying that has to be done, and whatever we got to do at the parks. We run the trails, keep the parks, the trails open. Maintenance in the building up there, up at the overlook, just whatever we have to do at the parks.
Like I say, getting out to Magnet and Rome just takes time.
It does.
Yeah.
Just drive.
I was wondering about that today. I was thinking, should we, if we don't bid, do we bid parts of it out? Do we say the ones that are far out, that are taking a half a day by the time you load up and go and come back? I mean,
I don't know what they charge anymore.
I have no idea.
Back in 2018, when I was looking at it, it was, I think they charged, at that time, it was like $1 a minute, I think, at that time.
Tomorrow.
It's expensive.
Did you have to pump out Rome restrooms this year? or-
I will have to, and Magnet, they're both gonna need it this year.
From the floods.
The flood at Rome.
Yeah.
Magnet just time.
This has to be.
Just mud. I mean, it's just. back
Rome
there.
is great there because when the flood waters get up, I don't even have to usually pick up a stick because I'm
Yeah.
on the inside of the curve up there. But at Magnet, I get it all.
Does the highway department, do they ever?
Oh, I
Back
can
up
do
with
it.
that.
I've got a tractor and stuff. I can do it. It's
I
just,
know.
it's time consuming.
Yeah.
And then every time the water comes up, for some reason, that driftwood loves that ramp there.
Just the way the river flows.
That's why they
Yeah.
call it Magnet.
Yeah,
Mighty Ohio.
excuse me. All right, I'll entertain a motion if anybody,
I'll make that motion.
what's your motion? Tell me what your motion.
That he
approve
can
the-
search to find an assistant.
Okay, so a motion
replace
made
that.
by Stan to replace the full-time assistant, correct?
Yes.
Okay. Do I have
I'll
a second?
I'll second it.
Seconded by Gail. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Looks like it passed 7-0.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Okay. Next up, Tara Lucas, immunization update.
I have papers for everyone, so maybe take one down, pass it around. Hi, so what should have been an easy update tonight has come with a little bit more to it than what we expected.
Wait a minute, you promised.
Yeah, yeah. So just to give you guys just a little brief rundown that I feel like would be helpful. So our VFC immunization grant, VFC is Vaccines for Children. It's a grant that funds our immunization coordinator, which is one full-time employee, and it funds partial salary for myself, another public health nurse, and our registrar. That funds our after hours, not county time, that we spend doing behind the scenes immunization work. We're in the schools doing back to school clinics. We are doing everything out, in the community outside of our normal working hours. Back in October, when we presented our Health First Indiana budget to you, we had made a proposal that if that grant ends, because that grant runs, it does not run January to December. It ends on June 30th. If that grant were to end, can we move those salaries to Health First Indiana funding? And you guys did approve that, for all of that to work out that way. So what I was going to tell you was that our immunization coordinator, Gail, is going to retire on June 30th. We are so sad. She's been amazing for us. But looking at the way that funding has been and trying to be a good steward of funding and, just do everything that we can, we decided to absorb Gail's job duties. I know I had made a request to is it Personnel Policy Committee? Is that the proper? So after our health board meeting, we had made a request of some changes to some job descriptions to reflect absorbing Gail's job duties. So that was supposed to free up some money in Health First Indiana for the latter part of the year by not paying Gail's salary. On Tuesday of this week, we were made aware that our VFC immunization grant funding was gone as of midnight. So that kind of leaves us in a little bit of a bind. So the paper that I typed out just kind of explains my request. utilizing the funding that we would have spent on Gail's salary for the second half of this year. We would like to use that now to pay her salary, her fringe, and our partial salary that we are no longer getting from our immunization grant. If you look at the last page of that, it'll show you how close we were on the funding. Unless I'm off by a couple of dollars, and if we were to be off, because I know that fringe sometimes fluctuates. We do have money within Health First Indiana. For example, our sanitarian assistant position has still not yet been filled. That money is going to have to be reallocated anyway. So we have some wiggle room that will not affect county general funds at all. So that is my request. Can we please use HFI dollars to continue our immunization grant duties and keep employing and paying our employees?
So make sure that immunization grant is gone.
It's gone as of right now. It was gone as of midnight on Tuesday.
So you won't have that anymore.
If you want me to be completely transparent, after the news came out, and after reading into it, I think what hurt us is that the title at the state level of that grant was VFC Immunization Grant COVID Immunization. And I think that if you don't understand, that what a VFC immunization grant provides children, and you just see that, hey, it's COVID immunization money, I think that that's what kind of got it tangled up a little bit. I think that if that title was not on there,
COVID was going in.
I think we'd be in a different position. But unfortunately,
So you don't think that their intention all along was as the HFI raises, it goes away?
I
I
think
kind of
that,
felt like they might do that.
I think that we had expected our VFC funding to dwindle, because why would we have two buckets of funding, which I've mentioned this before, focused on the same goal? We know that within Health First Indiana, pediatric immunizations, adult immunizations are a key performance indicator. It's something that we need to do, we need to offer, we spend a lot of time on. So why would we, focus on the same goal out of two different buckets of funding? So we fully expected it to dwindle. I just didn't know it was going to be at midnight on Tuesday. So that kind of put us in a bind, and I'm sorry to put that on you, so rapidly, but we have the funds to continue what we are doing, and we do important work. So
Yeah.
that's my request.
Normally, when you fund something, create a position with grant money, then when that grant money goes away, then the position goes away. That's the way we've always looked at it in the past, I think, so.
Sure, and, we are willing to take on those duties. It's not that the position isn't needed, because it is, and it will be a big ask of the three remaining health side. Kim has her plate full as well, but it's going to be a big ask on the three of us. But we're willing to do it. We worked with our health board. We all worked together to figure out how can we shift duties to make this work so that we're not, wasting funding. But
I believe there are going to be major changes.
I'm worried about
With-
Health
with
First
the
funding
new-
for
yeah.
next year, of course.
And,
Yeah.
because they're rethinking everything just about.
I will say that the health department has worked very, very hard last year and this year to build the programs that we are offering this community. So if there are changes to Health First funding, which I'm sure there will be, and if I have to come to you and ask for, I don't ask for anything. Often I ask for approval, but I don't ask for funding. But if that changes, I ask that you please remember the service that we provide to the community.
You've done a very nice job of laying this
Thank
out
you.
for us, and
I'm not an accountant, but
you did very well.
I'm just wondering from Chris, is this, can we just motion, like, if they are okay with this, is it a motion to transfer from the HF?
no,
You don't have to transfer.
no, we
Okay.
cannot transfer money
Well, I just
into
didn't
or
know.
out of. All it would be
So it's
is,
just a motion to allow you to use it
it's
for that
allow,
purpose.
yes, it's you guys saying, yes, we can use it for that purpose.
It's not technically a transfer.
No, there'd be no
Within-
transfer.
State, what she
Okay.
then reports it to
Yes.
the state.
And really, Chris, I'm sorry, because this is gonna be a nightmare, because it's in the middle of a pay period, and I'm sorry,
Yeah.
but we can work it out.
Okay. Does anybody else have anything for Tara? If not, I'll entertain a motion.
I'd make a motion to go ahead and approve to make those changes.
I'll second it.
Okay. Motion made by Gail to allow the $25,000 to be moved to earlier.
That's
is
really what it
the
is.
correct way to say it?
Yes, it's
Okay.
utilizing HFI funding for salaries now,
Okay, for now, or starting as of midnight on the
26.
26th.
Yeah.
Okay. And then seconded by, is that what you meant, Gail? That's your motion? Okay.
Yes.
Seconded by Brad. Any more discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Hey,
Motion. Nay? Did you nay? Okay.
no. Hey, yay.
Oh, yay. Okay, motion passes 7-0.
Thank you.
Thank you. Sorry, Stan, I couldn't hear you.
That's okay.
Next up is Eric Dickinson with the 2026 CHIRP grant.
Good afternoon, everybody. I wanted to approach the council this evening to ask permission to apply for fiscal year 2026. Their comprehensive highway injury reduction program is it's a mouthful. Called a CHIRP grant. We recognize it maybe more as Operation Plural, as it was commonly called back in the day. This particular grant provides funding to units of local government to support traffic safety projects that are proven to reduce fatalities and severe injuries. And I apologize, my AnyDesk program decided to go down on me. I do have the fatality numbers to talk about for a second. I don't have the personal injury accident numbers, unfortunately, since that program's not working. But I can tell you, in 2023, we approached you about this because our fatalities were setting at 5 for the year. And that was a drastic increase. And we wanted to try to do something to reduce the fatalities. You guys gave us permission to apply for this particular grant. And at the end of 2024, we reduced that number by 2. So they fully believe this evidence-based program that NHTSA provides us truly believes that if we follow the program and we follow the plan, that it will do exactly what it's done. And so I'm happy to announce that number has been reduced. This project our priority areas will be the Click and Deliver project, which is a project that looks for seatbelt restraint violations. Also, driving under the influence task force. We know that drunk driving is a real problem when it comes to those fatalities. So reducing the number of drunk drivers, even through education, enforcement, high visibility enforcement, will reduce. It's been proven to reduce the number of drunk drivers on the road. And then finally, the Stop Arm Violation Enforcement Project, or the SAVE, we call it SAVE, which we were members of before we were members of the CHIRP program. It does require a 20% match. And I think that we would be selected for a number probably pretty close to what we got this past
Like
year,
17,000.
around 17,000. We've asked for a hair bit more, but I don't anticipate getting it, and neither does the Southwest Liaison. There's not a whole lot of money coming down the pipeline, so but we asked for it. If it's possible, we would like to continue to take that match from inmate housing. I don't know exactly if it's going to be there or not, but we hope that it would be. If it was similar to this year, it would come in at a tune of about $4,900. And that's a hair bit more than 20%. And the reason why that is, I don't want the county to be faced with taking tax money to pay for this project. And the fact of the matter remains that FICA is 7.65%, we know, and our current retirement rate's at 21. So I accounted for 28% so that we don't get hit with a bill at the end of the year trying to figure out where to get the money. So
I think it's a great thing. So I just have a question about, you're doing the 3 different, the Click It and Live It project, the Driving Under the Influence Task Force, and the Stop Arm violation. Is that something you guys can just, I mean, you don't have to do like so many % of one or versus the other. It's just whatever you think is necessary at the time of the year or whenever.
Well, they do have mobilization periods. There's 4 mobilization periods a year, and there's an emphasis on typically each one. Some have multiple emphases. And then when they send the final grant with signatures back, they'll say, here's the total amount awarded to Ferry County, and it needs to be broke down into these categories. So
Okay.
they will say, we need to, and what we found was there was a lot of emphasis on Click It to Live It. So there was more than half, if my memory serves me right, went to Click It to Live It, and then a decent sized chunk went to the DUI task force, and then a smaller portion was just the SAVE program.
I'm just curious if they allowed you that leeway to determine that they give you parameters. Okay.
Yes.
So then you also fund the LICA and the pension out of inmate housing for the 80%, right?
They'll provide the 80%, but well, it's reimbursement style, so we're gonna get it all back. But we're only supposed to be required to come up with 20%, but for us, it's about 28,
Okay.
28.75 actually.
I don't see how it's a bad thing. And
And additionally, we talked about it the other night at the sheriff's office, an opportunity for the officers to get a little overtime,
Yeah.
because this is all overtime money. It's beyond the hours that they already provide the community. And possibility of helping bring their total reimbursement up to be a little bit more competitive with other counties.
Sure.
So it has a little bit of a dual benefit.
Yeah, I think it's great. Does anybody have any questions for Eric or any more discussions? If not, I'll entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve.
Motion made to approve the CHIRP 2026 CHIRP grant made by Paul,
I second that.
second by David. Any more discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes 7-0, sorry. Thank you. Next up are the February 27th, 2025 council minutes. Anybody have any adjustments, or if not, I'll entertain a motion to approve.
I'll make that motion.
Motion made by Stan,
I'll second that.
second by David. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye. Aye. Motion passes 7-0. You're next.
All right. Asking permission for a cash transfer from our general fund to our newly set up interest income fund, 1187, for the amount of $148,491.43. This is the interest that's been earned so far in 2025. We got that fund set up last month after you guys did the ordinance. So I want to go ahead and move the 2025 over there, and then going forward, it will go directly into there, not into general. And I thank you guys for your support and in getting to where we're separating a lot of these monies that are not just big pots of money, to where we can visually see things better. So that's just what we're doing here, where it's not just all one big pot.
So this is for January and February, and I just wrote down the total. So the total interest for January earned for the county was $79,092.58, and February was $69,398.85. So it doesn't include March even, and we're almost through March, so
Yeah, because
you won't know it till
Yeah, you're
mid-April.
getting December's and January, yes,
Yeah.
yeah. So we'll have this
so-
ready to go for April 1st.
Is there any questions or discussion? If not, I'll entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion to allow the transfer.
Okay. Do we need to make a motion to allow the transfer and then all future payments of interest to go, or does that?
Yes. and
Or do we need two separate ones?
I just need those ones.
Okay. Do you want to do that, David? Do you want a motion to approve the transfer and then all future interest to go into this
You can do
interest
that
account?
tonight? Okay, I'll make that motion to approve this transfer and then all future.
Yep, and then
Or
going forward,
25.
it'll all just automatically go in there. Yep.
So that's okay to do in one? Okay.
That's good.
All right, so
I'll
motion made
second.
by David, second by Gail. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes 7-0.
I received a couple additional appropriation requests. I sent you guys all the supporting documents on them, just to explain a little bit. The first one is for coming out of our additional appropriation for the general fund, out of the location for the planning and zoning for office supplies. As you guys remember, during budget season, there was no budget set for planning and zoning. So any request for will be an additional appropriation. So the first one there is for $275 for office supplies.
And I think that her note said it was for a printer and a mouse and just some things so she can print her documents and packets. And they're doing a great job at that. I know Mandy's been doing it this first quarter, I think. I don't know if there's another one. Is it just one a quarter?
Just Mandy mostly, right?
Okay. They put together packets and it seems to be.
I think
working.
other I do want to say other offices are helping out. It's been a little bit of a game changer. A lot of people coming in and having to, not being able to speak to someone. But I think we're all working together and, walking them down and, telling them to call this number and there's packets there. So I do think, I know we get them in our office and I know the treasurer does too, the recorder. So we're all kind of working together and it's just something new. With change comes that. So, but yeah, it is working well. And Mandy Jackson has been wonderful and spending a lot of time. So I see a lot of the other board members being the same when it's their chance. So yes.
So do we need to do these separately?
Yeah, go ahead and do those separate.
Okay, so I'll entertain a motion on the transfer from the general fund to the planning and zoning for the purpose of office supplies.
I'll make a motion.
Corey makes a motion.
Second.
Second by Stan. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes 7-0.
The next one is also for the planning and zoning out of the general fund, same situation, nothing budgeted for 2025 currently. We are going to be paying the board members out. They actually have to be county employees to be covered under liability insurance and workers' comp and all that stuff. So we will have to take this 810 and that's just something that since Mandy had submitted the request that it's kind of been a work in progress and communication there. So we are going to have to actually add them as a county employees. So some of that 810 will be divided between Social Security and they won't have pension or anything like that. So that 810, we're going to go ahead and kind of divide it out between Social Security and the wages.
To find out how many permits you can possibly do, or, I mean, it depends on the mileage also, because if they have to go out and look at something, they'll get a mileage, but I don't think that's the norm. So this is a start. I mean, we don't know how long this will take us through, because they're $30 a stipend, so it's just, I don't know.
So we're just gonna move it accordingly between Social Security, because I have to put Social Security in that line item. I can't pay it out of board members, but right now I really can't tell you like how much we need to budget for Social Security, how much we need to be. So we just figured the 810 right now between the both of them, and then if something changes, I'll let you guys know.
And is it correct that the money that was collected, let's say for permits last year, at the end of the year, it just went back into the general anyway? So we're pulling this out of the general, but that's where the money went anyways. And hopefully, once we get a budget for this, it can be something that, again, we can create a fund to where it stays there and it just is self-sufficient and it's just taking care of itself.
We can pull reports to see how much you brought in, because there's a receipt line item in general for the building permits. So you can visibly pull and see how much.
Last year wasn't it around 8,000 or something?
Something.
Something like that, I think so. So we can definitely look at that if requested.
Somebody have any questions? Or if not, I'll entertain a motion for the general fund transfer to planning and zoning board members for the stipend.
I'll make that motion.
For the stipend per permit is what it is, I guess. Motion made by David,
I'll second it.
second by Paul. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye. Aye. Motion passes 7-0. I think the next two are the,
The next one are for the sheriff. Eric, did you have anything to add with those on those documents?
Just, this is the same thing that we came to you for, I think it was in November, and I forgot that it wasn't gonna encumber at the end of the year. So we asked for it, you agreed to it, and then it went back to the cash on hand.
it didn't get
So
encumbered.
we just need to
Yeah,
appropriate the.
it's because
Social
that
Security.
September, it's September, right? And yeah, so we got the appropriation in September and then we didn't encumber it. So just a,
This goes back to the church grant
mhm.
from the last period. Okay.
Yeah.
Any questions for Eric? If not, I'll entertain a motion on the inmate housing fund transfer to the sheriff's office for social security. Can we do both of these or individual?
Do these separate, yeah. 'cause
Okay,
they're
for the
usually-
social security.
I'll make that motion.
Okay, motion made by David,
Second.
second by Brad. Any more discussion? All in favor, say aye. Aye. And next is the inmate housing transfer to the sheriff's office for the retirement in the amount of $3,609.58. I'll entertain a motion.
I'll make the motion.
I'll second it.
Okay, I think it's motion made by Paul, second by Stan. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes 7-0. Thank you. Oh, you got more? No?
No.
Okay, next up is open board appointments. The first one is the Property Tax Assessment Board of Appeals. And we did have something come up where there is a statute that I was not aware of. It is statute 361810, board, political affiliation, board appointments. And there's some question here because, might have to refer this to Rod. Because it talks about the last two recent primaries, that's how you determine what someone's political affiliation is. I found one online before this that said the last primary, this says the last two primaries. This is the most up to date. And then there's even something strange about if somebody was appointed before June 30th, 2023, it doesn't apply. So it's a little confusing. So I'm going to let Rod speak on this because I'm not sure what to do. Corey had reached out to the clerk, right? And the issue is,
Voting records.
yeah, for the voting records, so we could determine what party these people are based on the statute, because that's what we have to go by. And the issue is with, we have 3 current board members and we're looking for 2 additional. So he had to check the 3 current, correct?
The 3 current and the 3 applicants.
Okay. And what was the result? The result was that I'm the only one that had
One
both
person
the same.
matched for their last 2 primaries.
Okay, so we have 2 current members that have different primaries, in both, and then the other 3 are all different for the last 2 primaries. So we don't know what to do because the statute doesn't clearly define what do you do or how do you determine what party they are if the last 2 primaries are different.
Yeah, I think you initially you were talking about individuals that are appointed after June 30th of 2023. So I think a clear reading of this.
Can you come up here, Rod? I'm sorry.
No,
It's just hard for them to hear on
The
on
video, they
YouTube.
can't hear from back there.
sure.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
I just-
Lisa appreciates you, don't you?
Yeah, she does minutes. So.
I just reviewed this myself earlier today, so my reading, just a preliminary reading, first of all, if an individual is appointed after June 30th of 2023 to a board that has part of its appointment to the board is conditioned upon political affiliation of that person being appointed, then if they were appointed before June 30th of 2023, then this statute doesn't even apply. So it's only going to apply to people that you're trying to appoint.
And this is an annual appointment, so it's every year, it's new, so this is a new year, so that wouldn't be what this is. Nobody on the board, the whole board is reappointed every year.
And then when you, and there's many of these boards, you try to have 3 of a party, of one party, and then 3 of another, and whatever it might be. Whenever political affiliation of the people being appointed then becomes an issue, I think what they're trying to get at here is they want people, if they say they're a Republican or they say they're a Democrat, they're voting in the primaries consistent with that pronouncement, right? So if you have somebody that's skipping around in every primary, they're voting under a different affiliation, then how can you trust what affiliation they claim to be, right? In other words, they don't want somebody to try and game the system, vote in a certain primary, have really no philosophical affiliation to that particular party's platform, but, trying to use that as a means of gaining influence in a particular board or that kind of thing. I think that's essentially what they're getting at here. I don't think that happens in this county. We're a very small county, but I think you can see where it could be ripe with mischief in certain places where people want to gain influence and they're not forthright in who they are and what they are. Now, that's just my quick reading of it. That's not saying that that's the law. That's not saying that that's what you have to go by. Statutory interpretation is a tricky thing. All you have to do is read the case law on some of these things. It says here, the following must apply to the appointee. To most of us, that would mean it has to apply, but, sometimes the courts say, you know what, it really doesn't have to apply, And so, can you deviate from this? I would say you probably can. How's it going to fall in the end if somebody challenges this legally? Who knows, right? It could go against you. The Attorney General's office does issue advisory opinions on things like this.
Is that something we should reach out and check before we do this? I mean, just to see if they would, because.
Well, what's the urgency on this? Is there an urgency?
I mean, we currently
I
have
would
3
like to
appointments.
table this until next month, until we
Probably gonna need to get a special-
review the candidates and to try to see.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah, I think you could table this and just see what it
we
is.
can
It's-
check with the Attorney General.
It's a matter of statutory interpretation. If you're asking me what I think, it seems to be pretty clear, but I've seen stranger things, right?
Yeah.
So it may be that in its application, it's not as strict as it appears to read, right?
I just
And
didn't know if people had both, 2 different parties in the last 2, are they an independent? Or does it go by the most recent? Or, I don't know.
Well, those
It's
are
not clear in here. They need to clean
well,
it
there's some
up.
ambiguity. There's some ambiguity here.
They need to clean it up, this statute.
What about independent?
Right.
Someone claims to be an independent.
Have they voted independent in the last 2 primaries?
Well, that's true. You would have to have an independent.
In other words, I think what they're trying to say is, are you consistently voting what you claim to be, right? And if you're saying you're one thing, then don't vote another way, right? So if you're saying you're an independent, you should vote as an independent. If you're saying you're a libertarian, you should vote as a libertarian. If you're saying you're a Democrat, you should vote as a Democrat.
So an independent would pull an independent ticket, which doesn't exist.
Yeah, that's
right?
true. Well, I mean,
Good.
yeah, it could, and you could have multiple and have a primary I guess, right? Or could you
Right,
do that?
yeah. But I mean, he raises, it's a valid,
Strange.
there's some ambiguity here. And so, I mean, you could even say we're gonna go with the last primary election, but that's not what this says.
That's his last
I know,
name.
that's what's frustrating about this.
And so,
It's like they give you the rules, but then.
yeah, and so there is some wiggle room here because it is ambiguous and it's not clear, entirely clear. So,
I don't mind to reach out to the Attorney General if
Yeah.
there's a potential that they would give us an
An
opinion. They may or
advisory.
may not, but
yeah, and it doesn't cost anything.
Yeah.
So
Well,
that,
if you get that information, I think with us in property taxes, if we have any appeals, we
Yeah.
probably need to get this board set up
yeah, that's fine.
with tax bills going out April 8th in case we have any appeals.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, now, I will say that we do have currently 3 board members appointed.
okay.
So it's a board of 5, so there is already enough for a quorum if we had to have that happen. And there would not, it doesn't matter, I mean, mine is straightforward what my political affiliation is because my last 2 primaries are the same. And I'm elected official under, but the other 2 are undetermined, but it doesn't make for a majority of any one political party. So I think we're okay to move forward if we need to have a meeting, right? You know, if there's an urgency for a meeting or an emergency, we could do that until we find out what we're supposed to do here. Is that okay?
I think that's reasonable.
I just thought it was interesting because I don't think it's been considered before and there's multiple boards.
Yeah.
This isn't just about the Peter Boa board.
Yeah.
This is all boards with a political affiliation tied to it.
So that's we don't know what to do about that. Do we wait till the future appointments to clean this up? Because I don't know that this has ever been considered, because I just became aware of it.
I would
So
think
I don't know.
just
I would say going
Moving
forward,
Okay,
I would say going
for future appointments.
for future.
Okay. Okay, thank you, Rod.
Sure.
So Stan, did you want to make a motion to table?
To table this until.
Okay. Stan makes a motion to table,
I'll second it.
second by Paul. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye. Aye. And I will volunteer to reach out to the Attorney General's office if that's okay. I'll take care of it unless somebody else wants to. I don't mind. The next is the Zoning Appeals Board. I don't know
Okay, so
about
there's
this.
two different boards, there's planning and zoning,
Okay.
which is what Paul, is on, what you guys have done put Paul on. So typically, if you look at that, a lot of some of the same people are in the planning and zoning or on the planning or the zoning appeals board. So I guess if you want to appoint,
They're the same ones?
not all of them, but there's some of them that are on there. So, but it's an internal for the zoning appeals board. So
Oh, this is an internal. So it's someone on this board needs to
yes,
do that board.
or
Is anybody
I'll do
interested?
both. I think in the past.
Can you do
they've
both?
actually
Is
done
the appeals board
I think
not the checks and balance to the other board? Okay. Is anybody interested in being on that? I don't know how often they meet, but,
This only happens when there's a situation.
oh, it's only whenever something comes up that they have to meet. Okay. And I don't hear of it very often,
No,
but
I,
I don't know if I've heard of it in
one
my
time since I've been here.
Okay. Is anybody interested? No. Paul, are you interested?
I'll do it.
Okay,
Okay.
I'll make a motion for Paul Brockman.
okay.
I second that.
Corey nominates Paul Brockman and David seconds. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Thank you, Paul.
Sure.
And thank you, Corey. Next up is the Animal Welfare Committee. We did have a resignation we received from Rebecca Thorne from that committee. So this will be, we'll need to post that on the county website and wherever else you post that.
It's already posted.
Oh, it already is posted, okay. And then we'll take letters of interest. So if anybody is interested in the Animal Welfare Board, we can,
We are.
yeah,
We've run, but you want to post it.
yeah.
For
I don't-
period,
Somebody must have said,
something about.
Yeah, I don't know.
We got that.
meeting and heard.
oh, okay. I was gonna say, I don't know. We got an application, a letter of interest, which is good, but we have to post it, so.
They just moved here.
Okay, good. I'm glad we have interest. And if anybody else in YouTube land is interested, then you can bring a letter of interest by or email any of us. It's council1 through council7@perrycounty.in.gov. So just reach out to any board member. Be fine. We can let you know who to put your letter of interest into. And I guess that's that. And then next meeting is Thursday, April 24th, 2025 at 5 o'clock in the courthouse in the same room here. So if there's nothing else, then I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Make that motion.
Gail makes a motion,
I'll second that.
second by Stan. All in favor, say aye.
All right.
Aye.